These are the regular civil engineers doing their daily jobs, organized, trained, and equipped to deploy in short timelines to respond to a crisis. Think of them as a rapid response force. This means setting up everything, from emergency airfield lighting and aircraft arresting systems to tent cities and basic utilities. When a runway gets hit, a prime beef team is trained to clear debris and repair the damage in a matter of hours. What if you have to build an entire air base from scratch in a remote hostile place? For that, the Air Force calls in their heavy hitters, Red Horse. When you hear Air Force Civil Engineer, you probably think construction helmets, bulldozers, and building things. It's a simple, straightforward image. But what if I told you that story isn't just not complete, it's not even half the story? And what if I told you that saying a civil engineer just builds things is just like a heart surgeon just cuts on people? The reality is there's a complex, high-stakes world where these airmen lead two massive parallel missions. One of those missions is like running a multi-million-dollar city, and the others involves rebuilding a bombed-out airfield or no airfield at all, and many times under hostile conditions, and in rare occasions, enemy fire. The real story of an Air Force civil engineer is far more demanding and far more critical than projecting American air power than you can possibly imagine. The career fields of Air Force civil engineers are defined really by a fundamental split, two sides of the same coin, that demand completely different mindsets and sometimes skill sets. One side is the in-garrison mission, where they are at home station, where they're the backbone of the entire installation. The other side is the deployed mission, where they become more expeditionary warriors, enabling the Air Force to fight from anywhere on the planet. To really get what a civil engineer does, you have to understand both missions. An Air Force base isn't just a collection of buildings and runways, it's a living weapon system made of its people. The first mission we're going to talk about is to operate and maintain the base. Picture a small city with thousands of people, an airport, power plant, water systems, roads, sewer system as well. Now imagine you're in charge of maintaining and operating most of it. There's other career fields we could talk about that we'll get into at another time. That's the day-to-day reality for an Air Force civil engineer. At home, they're essentially the public works directors, city managers, designers, construction managers, disaster preparedness managers, and fire services for a huge complex community. Even home station, there's EOD, explosive ordnance disposal. That's usually to take care of any issues with the planes and munitions that are on there, and they also can help outside the base. This responsibility is enormous. We're not just talking about fixing leaky faucets. We're talking about the planning, the operation, and maintenance of the Air Force's most important weapon system. Its installation and this includes the runways and taxiways that multi-million-dollar aircraft have to use, but those need to be near flawless. Lots of sweeping, lots of taking care of, patching, cracks, sealant, all these things. Then there's electrical power grids. The electrical grid is powering sensitive command centers can't fail either. Then there's the HVAC systems, which also need power, but then the systems themselves work on critical facilities and communications. And there's also the water and the fuel systems that keep the mission going. There's housing for thousands of airmen on the installation. This is a constant battle for significant portions of the Air Force infrastructure, just as other major cities, with many utilities and facilities operating at moderate to high risk, depending on the situation. But there's been a lot of upgrades over the past 2 decades. This means CE officers and enlisted leaders are constantly managing multi-million-dollar modernization projects to ensure the bases stay resilient from anything from natural disasters or cyber attacks. Air Force officers usually have a degree in fields like civil, electrical, or mechanical, even industrial engineering. They lead teams of military and civilian personnel, oversee huge contracts, and are responsible for the strategic vision of the base's future. Supporting this leadership is a diverse team of enlisted experts, each a master at their trade. At the central part of the operations flight is the Operation Management Specialist, FSC 3E6X1, who act as the nerve center for the entire base maintenance section. They coordinate all the work orders from start to finish and make sure the right people and materials get to the right place at the right time. They are the essential link between a work request and the finished job. Working with them, you have the engineering assistants, AFSC 3E5X1, who are the brains behind the build. They perform the critical surveying, drafting, and planning that turns an idea into a real project, but they work mainly in the engineering shop. You got pavements and construction equipment operators, also called dirt boys. Their AFSC is 3E2X1, who can sometimes literally move mountains, build and repair runways, and build roads, or dig trenches for laying pipe for water systems. Then you have the structure shop with AFSC 3E3X1, who handle everything from framing and masonry to welding and finishing, as well as constructing and modifying every part of the building from foundation up. Moving on, you have the utility specialists, electrical system specialists 3E0X1, who maintain everything from airfield lighting to the power grid that keeps the command centers online. A shred out of that is the X2, and they are also power production. Power production takes care of generators, maintain them, operate them, run them, as well as maintain and operate the aircraft arresting systems, also called a Bach 12. These systems use a grappling hook like in the Navy when they land on aircraft carriers, except these are on bases. And usually your fighters are the ones that operate these, like your F-16 and F-22s. Bet you didn't know that. I sure did when I joined the Air Force. You have the water and fuel system maintenance technicians, AFSC 3E4X1. They manage the base water supply and wastewater and the critical distribution for systems for aircraft fuel. But don't forget those leaky faucets we talked about earlier. Moving on, we have the revered HVAC technicians, AFSC 3E1X1. These guys install and repair the heating and cooling systems that are vital for both people and mission critical equipment. Together, this team doesn't just maintain the base, they ensure it's lethal and resilient for projecting air power. Every single bolt they tighten, every project they manage, every system they upgrade is directly tied to the Air Force's ability to launch aircraft at a moment's notice. This is the foundational mission, the one that makes everything else possible. But that's only half their mission. That's what they do to keep their skills ready for their real mission and ensure our established bases are ready, which is the key reason why airmen still perform this function, instead of farming it out for contractors like the Army did. What happens when the Air Force needs to project power where there is no base? What happens when there is no runway, no power, no shelter? That's when the second mission kicks in. That's when the city managers and maintainers have to become the expeditionary engineers. We don't use the term combat engineer, that's for the Army or the Marines. When it's time to deploy, the whole mindset shifts. The enemy is no longer just an aging power grid or a tight budget. It's the clock, the terrain, and often an actual adversary. This is the expeditionary side of civil engineers, where the main job is to establish, sustain, and recover air bases anywhere in the world under any condition. This is where you hear insider terms to define the CE combat spirit, Prime Beef and Red Horse. First, let's talk about Prime Beef. It stands for Prime Base Engineer Expeditionary Force. This isn't just a clever name, it's a core concept for every civil engineer in the Air Force. From the newest airman to the most senior officer is the Prime Beef team. These are the regular civil engineers doing their daily jobs, organized, trained, and equipped to deploy in short timelines to respond to a crisis. Think of them as a rapid response force. They're the specialists who can deploy to a bare patch of dirt and get the essentials running so aircraft can land and operate. This means setting up everything, from emergency airfield lighting and aircraft arresting systems to tent cities and basic utilities. The most critical wartime skill is rapid airfield damage repair, or radar. When a runway gets hit, a Prime Beef team is trained to clear debris and repair the damage in a matter of hours, letting jets get back in the fight with minimal downtime. They are the force that operates and maintains a bare base and keeps it running under pressure. But what if you just don't need to repair a runway? What if you have to build an entire air base from scratch in a remote hostile place? For that, the Air Force calls in their heavy hitters Red Horse. Red Horse stands for Rapid Engineer Deployable Heavy Operational Repair Squadron Engineer. I know it's a mouthful, but it had to fit the Red Horse naming system. These units are the Air Force's answer to the Seabees. A Red Horse Squadron is a self-sufficient, mobile force of about 400 people capable of taking on major construction projects on their own, often in high-threat locations. They bring everything they need to operate for a long time, from their own heavy equipment, their own security, contracting, medical, and food service personnel, which are different career fields that are normally wholly separate from CE. Their capabilities are massive and they can move tons of earth, build concrete and asphalt runways, drill for water, operate quarries, and build huge structures. Anything from hangars to hospitals. They're the ones that turn a patch of nothing into a fully functioning forward operating base. Woven into all of these two sets of missions are three of the most high-stakes jobs in the entire military, and they fall under the CE umbrella. First is the Fire Protection Flight, FSC 3E7X1. Air Force firefighters do more than just fighting building fires. They're trained for most everything, from wildland fires to the most critically and specifically their job at hand is aircraft crashes involving burning jet fuel and hazardous materials. When a fighter jet goes down on the flight line, they are the ones who lunge toward the danger. Next is Readiness and Emergency Management, AFSC 3E9X1. They have a dual mission as well as a lot of the other parts of CE. First is emergency management planning and operating the Emergency Operations Center during events like active shooter, aircraft crashes, or a natural disaster. The other side is readiness, which trains the base for chem, bio, and nuclear warfare to wear and operate in their chemical suits and gas masks. They also detect and scan for sea burning events to direct when it is safe to come out of the gear, among many other things in this area. And finally, there's Explosive Ordnance Disposal, or EOD, which most of you have heard about, AFSC 3E8X1. These are the airmen who face the most immediate threats on the battlefield. They're responsible for locating, identifying, and disarming and disposing of all types of explosive hazards, from unexploded bombs to IEDs. When a runway is attacked, it's the EOD that goes out first to clear unexploded ordnance so the prime beef teams can safely do their assessments and repairs. They're an essential part of the CE mission, making the ground safe enough for everyone else to do their job. Before we move on, and if you're enjoying this information and you're looking for more for a deep dive into military careers you thought you knew about and all things manly, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. So what does an Air Force engineer really do? Yes, they build things. They are also strategic managers of infrastructure worth billions. They're the city planners of communities of thousands. They're the first responders running towards a burning aircraft on the flight line. They are the expeditionary engineers carving the airfields out of the wilderness. They are the EOD techs walking towards a bomb to disarm it, and the emergency managers managing all the chaos in a possible chem, bio, or nuke event. These civil engineers operate in two completely different worlds, one of structured long-term planning and the other of rapid high-stakes response. They are a diverse team of officers and enlisted airmen with many specialties, all united by a single purpose: to build, maintain, and defend platforms from which the Air Force projects its power. While the pilots and jets may get all the glory, they fly and operate from air bases built, maintained, and operated by civil engineers. This career is so much more than the construction. It's about being the very foundation of the United States Air Force. There is a CE unit in virtually every single Air Force base there is. There are some those that only have government civilians or contractors only, but most have a home for you if you decide to become a part of the elite team of airmen. Make sure you understand that reserves and the Air Guard also have CE units as well. And check out why the Air Guard can be voice over active duty right up here. If you were surprised by any of this, let us know in the comments below which mission you found to be more interesting: the city planner or the Red Horse and prime beefers out in the field. And if you're thinking about joining, you'll definitely want to check out our video right here on what to expect in basic training. Or if you're still deciding which branch is right for you, we've got a detailed breakdown of Army versus the Air Force right over here. For more deep dives on military careers you only thought you knew about, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. That's all we have for today. Berserker Brotherhood out.